Ooh. Hey, brother.
Oh, that's better.
Mm.
When I went into the light, and like it's hard to talk about it, but when I went into the light, I recognized everything and everyone perfectly, and I knew I had to come back. Like I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what had happened for a second. It wasn't until I came back that I realized what had actually happened. And actually, I was so stupid that Greta had to tell me what had happened. I was in a state of shock, like I was in a state of complete awe and shock and wonder and everything else like that. And Greta said to me, she said, I can't believe it. You just walked in off the street and had that experience. She said, I've seen people trying for 20 years to have that experience. And I realized that I'd been in eternity, and it only seemed like a few moments. And that was the first time, but it only seemed like a few moments that I was there, like 5 seconds, but back on earth, half an hour had gone by. When I came to, and I stood up and looked at the clock, well, not that I really looked at the clock, but when I stood up and saw how many people were in the room from future references, I knew that from the time I went in and there was 6 people to the time where I stood up and there was about 50 or 60 people, that usually took about half an hour in the morning for the room to fill up to that stage. You know, like there'd always be 5 or 6 people there really early doing the 20-minute book. And then by about 9 o'clock, the room was full. And I think I got there probably at about 8:30 when everyone was doing the 20-minute book. And it was just after 9, probably. But I didn't want to come back, that's for sure. But I remember making a decision, or it wasn't even a decision. There's a bit in the course where Jesus says talks about the prayer of the heart. It's like the prayer of the heart that God put there himself. So the prayer of my heart in the dark night of my soul, 3 days before that happened, the prayer of the heart, of my heart, which is the deepest prayer imaginable. I couldn't have gone any deeper in that prayer. It was either that or suicide. I was out of there that night. And in that prayer, I wanted to know God more than anything. Like the world, there was nothing in the world. I didn't want to be in the world. I didn't want to exist. I didn't want to even know that I didn't exist. I was so done with everything. And but then I had this funny little side bit on the prayer. It seems like it was a side bit where I wanted to be helpful, and I wanted to I remember making a deal with Jesus. It's like I was telling him in my prayer that I would study the Bible if I had to, but the seminary college or whatever you call it was like I'd looked into being a monk before, you know, like into going to what do they call those places, monasteries and things. There's one down in Victoria that I was quite keen on, in a forest, but it was 6 years, right? So the thing that it was a 6-year thing. And I remember saying to him in the dark night of my soul, I don't think I can do 6 years, Jesus, right? There's tears streaming down my eyes. And I said to him, I think I can probably do 1 year, right? And the course is a 12-year thing, so go figure, right? So I said, I think I can probably do 1 year. And so I realized when I was back and I found myself in that place where Greta was telling me about the course, and it was a 1-year course, that Jesus had taken me at my word that I could do a year, and had put me in a place where, like, I was going to fulfill my obligation to the prayer of my heart, you know, and it's like, come what may. And I did. Like, I stayed there. And funny thing is, I ended up staying there for 6 years. So it's kind of bizarre. sat there with Ted for 6 years. Well, 3 years full time, and then 3 years coming and going. So we did a lot of traveling. After 3 years, taking the 20-minute walks and going out and using the centre as a base, really. And we did pretty much all around Australia. So, but yeah, didn't want to come back. I remember, and even a few of the brothers there, like when we had this guy, can't remember his name. So at the time that happened, right, this is a pretty cool story, but at the time that happened, I was hanging out with a group of people that loosely called themselves the Rainbow Tribe. And they were made up from people all over the country that came from other kind of tribes, like Bird Tribe and Walking Man Tribe and things like that. And they were united. I'd never heard of it all before, but they were united under a prophecy, right, which is a Hopi Indian prophecy that in the end days, a tribe will come together, the 13 tribes will reunite under the Rainbow Tribe, blah, 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 something. I can't remember the exact prophecy, but the girlfriend that I had at the time introduced me to this Rainbow Tribe. She said, we're going to, I want to go to this thing. I want you to come with me. We're going to go to this Rainbow Tribe. It was the first one in Australia. And we went there. There was no electricity, like it was camping. There was teepees, there was tents, there was people just sleeping under the open sky, 1,000 people there. And I was terrified. It was like, I hated it. I had a major meltdown, and people running around naked and confronting their fears and like covering themselves in mud down by the river. And there was sweat lodges and ceremonies. And there was all sorts of just higgledy-piggledy of every kind of spiritual thing you could imagine. People would just put on impromptu workshops and stuff. And I'd never been to anything like that before. And my girlfriend at the time seemed to abandon me there. I was wearing like my Hawaiian shirt and my cargo pants, and everyone's wearing rags. You know, they're wearing like rags and they've got dreadlocks and the whole thing. And I was living like, I thought I was pretty cool. I was living at a commune at the time. There was 8 of us on this commune. We had 160 acres given to us to build a little eco village, and we were all fairly radical. But these guys were like feral, you know, like they were right off the grid. So there was no alcohol, no drugs. Everything was completely natural. It was really beautiful, actually. But I'd never been confronted with anything like that before, and I went through a whole thing. I spent 3 days there naked, you know, like I knew I was terrified. I kept having people coming up to me, asking me like why I'm wearing Hawaiian shirt and things like that and whatever. And I had these 2 girls drag me down to the river where they were covering people in ochre, right, this mud. And I'm like, oh man, like my girlfriend's just so free and easy with all of this. I got to let go of all my inhibitions here. I don't even know what this is all about. So I went with these girls, and there's a sweat lodge thing where you go after, but they stripped me off naked down by the river and started covering me in mud, you know, like head to toe, everything. And I'm covered in this mud. And they said, you just have to let it dry for a minute, you know. And I ended up not washing it off. I spent 3 days covered in the mud. I knew something was going on, you know, and we went back to our tent, and my girlfriend was there, and I remember the look on her face. She's like staring at me like, who the hell is this guy, you know, that would do something this radical? Anyway, I ended up having a massive meltdown there and realized that the free and easy person I wasn't that free and easy, actually. You know, I realized actually how inhibited I was about anything. And it really broke me open in an emotional sense, which was like incredible. Eventually I went and washed off the mud. But when I went to the Miracle Center, right, this is a year later, I guess, after the Dark Night of the Soul went there, maybe a little longer. When I went to the Miracle Center, I made lots of good friends there. One of my friends there was Lockie, right? And Lockie had heard about rainbow gatherings and things, and there was like one a year, I think it was. And so Lockie and I decided, right, so you have to go back to Nazareth. You have to go to your Nazareth. And I decided that the Rainbow Tribe thing was kind of a bit like a Nazareth for me, where I knew people. I'd been to like half a dozen of these things, and I knew people there and whatever, and they all knew me as Dave, whatever. And since then, I'd had my enlightenment, and I felt like I sort of had to go back and represent this new sense of myself and this whole new thing. And I went back there and I put on a workshop. I went to one of the thing, and I took Lockie with me. And Lockie was completely unfazed by anything. It was really amazing to watch him in his element. He was just wearing like jeans and a t-shirt and whatever, the whole thing. And he didn't feel confronted at all. Like, I don't know if he was just so beyond it or just didn't really pick up on the vibe, or I don't know what, but Lockie was just Lockie the whole time. And so Lockie and I borrowed this massive teepee, which was like one of the teaching teepees or ceremony teepees. And we made up a little sign saying spiritual teachings. I forget what we said, something like that, and put it down by the river, because everybody went down by the river to have a wash at least once a day, mostly, and washing in the river. Saying spiritual teachings, I forget the thing, tomorrow, midday, something like that, big teepee, you know, like that. Anyway, it was packed. It was like you couldn't squeeze anybody else in. And there's me and Lockie, and it's like the both of us had never stood up in front of anyone before to do anything like this. Like, this was our first sort of thing. And we had a box of 20-minute books with us. And Lockie and I, we looked at each other like, what the hell are we going to do here? You know, there's so many people, and there's people outside and can't come in, and people were coming in and seeing how crowded and walking away and whatever. And so I just started reading aloud from the 20-minute book, and Lockie went around and passed them all out to everybody in the thing. And everybody started having a turn. And there was this one guy that really connected with everything. Like, he was totally like, you could just see, you know, when you're talking to someone, you see the light bulb go on. This guy was just bam, bam, bam. The light bulb was going on, and he was sitting there reading and like that. And he didn't want to stop reading. And like, people were taking turns like we do. Anyway, about 2 weeks later, he turned up at the Miracle Center after the Rainbow gig. He turned up at the Miracle Center, and Ted was teaching that day. And he confronted Ted, like, I can't remember what the thing was, but Ted was terrific. People would come in off the street all the time. Hey, Janine, you're dropping in and out a bit, but people would come in off the street because we had an open door thing, right? So people would come in, Ted would be teaching, whatever. And Byron Bay, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Byron Bay, but it's the sort of place where every kind of person who's got any kind of spiritual interest in anything, they eventually come to Byron Bay. And it's a place where you get people from the discipline of Osho or the Moonies or whatever. Everybody's there. Hare Krishnas, Buddhists, and like, it's just this huge melting pot. Or it used to be, it's not now. And so people would come in, and Ted was probably, well, people say that I often teach like Ted in a way, but Ted was more in your face. Like, if you had a thing going on, he'd totally call you out. Like, you couldn't sit in his inner circle and just he would let something slip. He would let nothing slip. Like, bam, you'd be like totally. And so this guy came in, and the room was packed. There was about 100 people. And I remember seeing him. I was sitting across the room, and I remember seeing him walk through the main doors. And Ted said something to him. Ted saw him and recognized his energy, like just recognizing, because this guy was like on fire. He was on fire at the Rainbow Gathering. And he walked in, said, Ted welcomed him in or something. And he had this whole thing going on. I'm here to offer you salvation, brother. Like, this is what he said to Ted. I'm here to offer you salvation. And Ted sort of sat back in his chair, and it's like a bit of a Ted smile sort of came across his face. And he goes, all right, cool, let's have it like that, and put this guy on the spot. This guy was beautiful. He just totally, I don't know, it was as if instead of him walking into Ted's room, it was as if Ted had come into his room, and he belted out this beautiful teaching, but I can't remember what it was. There was a flaw in it. There was something wrong with his teaching. Like it had a thing where he wasn't quite hearing it, you know. Anyway, everybody in the room heard it. Everyone picked up on where it was at, and no one said anything because like Ted's show. And then when he was finished talking, Ted said something to him. I forget whatever it was, but it addressed the schism. It addressed the bit that was missing or the bit that was wrong, right? So, and Ted, he had a beautiful way about him. He was very graceful. Like when he spoke, unless he was really railing on you, like, but when you were a newcomer, he would be really graceful. And when he spoke, his words and like it'd be like a grandfather talking to a little grandchild, you know, like he'd be sort of like trying to gently help you to see something and teach you. He had such a grace, right? That was it. And anyway, so he made an approach to this guy, and this guy got all feisty. Like he just suddenly lost all his spiritual facade and became this kind of aggressive sort of, you know, just threatened person. And we never saw him again. Like Ted and him had this back and forth, and Ted just presented reason after reason after reason, and this guy just presented defense. But after he left, this guy sort of stormed out. After he left, I felt compelled, right, to tell the story of my awakening in there. And Ted was sort of sitting back in his chair, just taking a moment, because they'd had this really intense thing going on. And it was either going to be this guy's going to completely flip every switch and have his awakening right now, or he's going to leave. And unfortunately, he chose to leave. But everyone could see it happening. Like everyone was on the edge of their seats, like, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? You know, you can hear this person's about to really, really just bam, but nah. Anyway, there was a lot of energy in the room after he left, and something inside of me just said to me, you got to get up and tell the story of your awakening, right? So I got up and I said to Ted, I have to say something. Ted had never heard the story of my awakening, because at the time I was there, Greta was teaching and he was in Wisconsin. He'd gone back to Wisconsin doing some teaching. And so I got up and I told my story, and Ted looked at me and he's like, because there was a lot of people in the room who'd heard of this guy that walked in. I didn't know that, right? So backstory, there was a lot of guys in the room who knew this guy, because everyone in the room was from different spiritual circles and different things in Byron Bay in the town. Apparently this guy was quite well known, and Ted had just deposed him. So there was a lot of animosity and a lot of like, ooh, you know, like, what the hell's going to happen in these other circles now? Because this guy, you know, has just been shot down in flames and whatever. And you could feel that energy in the room, right? So I told my story. Ted's looking at me and he's like, I never knew that. That's what he said to me. He goes, I never knew that. He goes, whew, that's a powerful thing. He goes, let's take a minute. So I went over and put some music on, just some calm music, and let the room just sort of settle a bit. And after that, I had a few people that weren't there in my awakening. They come up to me and said, why the fuck did you come back? Why did you come back? You're an idiot. Like treating me like I'm just like, it's like, I didn't know that I had an option. You know, I didn't know that I had a choice. So that's a long story to get to that point, but it's like, when you see the light, when you get to the light and you go beyond, it's like what you just read in the branching of the road, Janine. When you have that experience of seeing the beauty and the perfection and the love in your brother, you won't want anything other than that ever again. It'll It'll open your heart, your mind. It'll open everything in you. There will be nothing the world can offer you, you know, not a thing. Fame, fortune, nothing. The world can offer you nothing compared to that. And since that day, I haven't wanted anything. And I've been tempted. Like I've been tempted by things. Like my temptations still come to me, not maybe so much today, but in the earlier days, like women, I was terribly, you know, attracted to women and sex and the whole thing. That was a big thing for me. And when I, at the time I was at the healing center, I was going out with another girl who had a baby to somebody, and she was very, very beautiful. And I considered her anyway, one of my greatest temptations. And in having to let her go, it was difficult, but it was easy. It's like I knew that I only wanted the light, but I had to let go perhaps of the best relationship I'd ever had with the most beautiful person I'd ever had, inside and out. Like, she was physically attractive, emotionally and spiritually, she was lovely. And I mean, I'd had a whole string of bad relationships through alcoholism and drug addiction and everything. I've just been manifesting people that would just provoke and push all my buttons. And like, every relationship I had was horrific, except for her. Right. And she came along. It's like the best thing that ever happened in my life. And I have to let her go. And I knew I had to let her go. She wasn't interested in joining with the course. And I knew that wasn't her deal, you know, and like, but the temptations have come and gone, but the light has always been there. It's like the recognition of the truth of my brother beyond the form, beyond the physical. It's always been there. And it's just been like, man, this is a tough teaching, you know, but it's only tough on the side where the confrontation with the temptation is made. Once that decision has been made, everything falls away automatically. And you wonder, you're kind of left wondering what the hell was so difficult about letting go of that fear in the first place. Right? Everything changes in the decision. As soon as you make the decision, boom, it's done. Everything else then sort of like steamrolls and topples and bits and pieces fall away, and it just sort of like a house of cards falling down. And it's kind of like, and you look back on it and go, that wasn't really anything. It was just an illusion. How did I give so much meaning to it? How did I make it so important in my life? But we do. That's what happens. I give everything a meaning I see, and some of those things have an incredible meaning. And because fundamentally, right, try to feel this when I tell you this, right? Inside each and every person is the memory of God, is the memory of eternity, is the memory of reality. Inside you right now, that memory exists. There is the Christ in you, something in you seeking that memory, looking for that perfection. The part of you that is speaking and witnessing for the physical nature of life is always going to seek for it externally, out there in the form, the perfect person, the perfect job, the perfect whatever relationship, everything like that. But fundamentally, it's a true seeking, because it's seeking perfection. So the ego isn't really against you seeking something to keep you retarded or keep you in the time frame limitation. It's doing what it's meant to do. It's seeking perfection, but it's just seeking it in the wrong place, right? It's seeking it on terms that it manufactures, that it imagines, and that it thinks that you would approve of, right? It doesn't actually care whether you approve of it or not. It's going to still keep giving you dangling carrots, you know, look at this one, look at that one, here's another shiny thing, right? But fundamentally, the true action of seeking the truth or seeking perfection is there, right? Because that is the prayer in your heart. God put that there himself. And no matter how much power you want to give to your ego, it can't obliterate it or override it, right? It's a God-given thing. And I love saying that. It's God-given, because it is God-given. The prayer of your heart is God-given. when you pray, and I still pray kneeling beside my bed like a little child. I don't pray for things anymore. I pray in gratitude. I just offered, thank you, Father. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because everything is a flow, and a true sense of gratitude keeps you in that flow. And I don't even really pray anymore per se as such, but when you pray, the prayer of the heart is so deep within you that any prayer that you imagine you can offer is false. Any prayer that you can conjure up in words in your mind is nothing. The prayer of the heart is so deeply embedded in you that you kind of have to give up your own ideas of praying to reach it. You have to get to a place where I don't know how to pray. I don't know what prayer is, but I feel that I need to pray. I feel that I want to pray. And feeling is where it's at. You got to feel deep inside that sense of longing, that sense of the Christ in you that wants to go home. There's a place in you that's so deep that no amount of people putting their hands on your shoulders, trying to console you, nothing the world offers is going to save you from that place. Eventually, you're going to fall into that prayer. You're going to find yourself in the place of that prayer, and you're not even going to know how that happened. It's going to be like one moment you were walking along reasonably okay, perhaps dealing with some mental issues or some anxiety or something, and then all of a sudden the scales just go boom, and you'll find yourself right down in that place, because when it's your time to awaken, nothing can stop that. When it's your time to awaken, you will. The time has already been set by God. The time has already been set. All you can do is bring that time closer to you. And that's what we practice through miracle mindedness. That's what we practice through the course. Collapsing time, collapsing the time of cause and effect between the nature of the experiences we have in our learning relationships, so that we don't have to continue to go on these massive loops of learning, oh, not this again, not this again. Those things prolong time. Or it's not that they prolong it, but it's a long time. All of time is a long time. Jesus says, what's 10,000 years for they have come? But it's like, I look at that and I'm like, 10,000 years? He's serious, Jesus? Like, really? Fucking hell. I guess it doesn't matter, right? When you're Christ-minded, like when you're Christ-minded, what is 10,000 years really? It doesn't matter whether you're here on earth or whether you're up there in the clouds or whatever you think the next dimension is going to look like. It doesn't matter, because you're Christ-minded. Your clunky old body and, everything else that you think about on earth just falls away. All your concerns. It's like, I had a good one yesterday about Putin, that Russian guy, right? And Putin has made some threat of nuclear war or something, which would obliterate the world, because it'd be tit for tat, which is typical stupid human stupidity, tit for tat, and there's no forgiveness, right? And I remember thinking, when I was about 25 or something, there was all that going on in the end of the Cold War or whatever it was, and I remember thinking how horrific that was and how many buttons that pushed in me. It was like terrifying. What do we do? Running around like a headless chicken in my own head, like the sky is falling, nuclear war. And yesterday I was on my phone, and like whenever I hit Google, a news feed comes up first and I have to flip it away. And I was like, there's Putin with his thing. And it was just like a weather report. It was just like anything else. It was like, yeah, whatever. And then keep going to the next thing, right? There was no trigger. There was no nothing. But I remember making a reference for it in my mind how I once would have reacted. I would have rang all my friends and I would have, hey, have you seen the news? Like, we have to go out in the streets and take signs and banners and rally and make a protest and go to the war office and like burn it down or something. But there was nothing. I'm like, eh. But that's the same with everything, even 10,000 years, even all of time. It's like, what do you do? What are you going to do, really? You know? We're in for a penny, in for a pound. So may as well be about our Father's business, learn to love each other as best we can at the level we're at or at the place that we're at, and just be about that. It's like we're early. Ted used to say, you guys are late timers early in time, right? If you've got this book in front of you, Course in Miracles, if you've got this book and you're reading it and you're involved in a Zoom group and you're doing everything else, or you're going to meetings and you're doing meditation based on the lessons of the Course and you're having those aligning kind of moments, you're a late timer early in time. Right? We're only 2,000 years since the resurrection. Think about it that way. There's going to be guys in 100,000 years that are going to be talking about the resurrection like it's something they don't even have any kind of comprehension of. They're going to be like, that was such a, that was 100,000 years ago. The same way that we sort of think about, pre-Christian life, the Babylonians or who were the earliest civilizations. We don't really have any comprehension. We don't have a working understanding of those things in a way where it makes a difference to our lives. Maybe if you're a history buff, might be something that you're interested in, but for most of us, it's sort of like, what is that? The Egyptians, they had those funny skirts and those snake things on their head. So, I think the thing that we're doing here now is incredible. Like the time frame, it's like we're 50 years since the Course was into the world. And I think it was in Disappearance of the Universe. Not that I put a lot of stock in Gary Renard's story, because I've heard other stories about Gary Renard I don't want to get into. But I think it was like in 1,000 years, the whole of humanity will be using the Course as some kind of a reference for communicating. Pardon me, I got hiccups. But I think it was in one of his books I read that. And Ted used to say something like 5,000 years or something it's going to take before people actually pull their finger out of their arse and learn to love, like start to realize what it's actually going on here. So we're like pioneers. All of us on here are like pioneers. We're looking at a technology and we're looking at the application of that technology in our lives that most people won't be taking into conscious effect until 1,000 years from now. It's like when Jesus first walked the earth and he had his 12 disciples and the scribes, and they're all following along, taking down everything that's going. And John's talking to his scribe saying, write this, write that, and blah, blah, blah. And they're writing everything down. And it's like, it's taken how many centuries of misquotation, misinterpretation, and everything else. Look at the Crusades and the Holy Wars and things in the name of that teaching. It's like how many people had to get it wrong. It's like we're in the same boat exactly, but we're learning how to get it right by getting it wrong. It's impossible to take this teaching and formulate a religion out of it because the teaching denounces itself. Right? This is like Zen Buddhism. There is no such thing as Zen Buddhism. It's like two Zen Buddhists had a conversation. No, they didn't. Who would they talk to? Yeah, it's funny stuff. So I forget where we're at. Oh yeah, the light. When you have an experience of the light, you won't want anything else, even if it's just a glimpse. Gemma, you're on the verge of an incredible glimpse. I'm telling you that. I don't know what it is. I don't know where the little click goes in your mind, but I know that it's there because I recognize in you something that I recognize in me to this day. I don't know what to tell you from this point on. You're in God's hands, really, but there's something, I mean, a greater mastery of the stillness of your mind would be an advantage. More time spent in the quiet and the stillness would definitely be an advantage. And obviously confronting whatever fears you have still, maybe go and find a river and have some people cover you in mud. That was one of the most confronting things happened to me. But whatever it takes, you know. So good talk. So Janine, what's happening? You guys are all wearing woolens and stuff.
I think I'm I'm obviously in my head about it. My whole life I've wanted to have children, to be a mother. So then this year alone I had 2 pregnancy losses, which this year has been the last couple of years with the course and stuff, has lots of stuff has happened. And then last week, the last month I've been very doing the lessons and reading and just praying and meditating. And I had this thought, and I don't know if this is, I guess I'm just going to say it. So the other day I thought to myself, I was thinking, if you have a baby, will it take longer for me to wake up? Because then I'll be putting, then I'll have something like a special relationship that will, do you know what I mean? Like it will hold me in the world or something. I don't know how that sounds, but I was thinking, I was like, I want to wake up now. If I have a child, will it be like 18 years before I can, I don't want to, like right now I could say I could put God everything, but if I have a child, then I don't know if I'm making any sense. I literally was like, oh, maybe I won't have kids then, because I want to wake up.
Right.
That's what I've been thinking about.
So there's a few things in there. Okay. The first one is nothing can stop you from waking up. It's preordained. The time is set. You don't have to worry about that.
Quicker.
Well, and 2, everything works together for the greater good. If you have a child, it works together for the greater good. If you don't have a child, that works together for the greater good. The question is, what do you want? Now, before you answer that question, I want you to look at the idea of a child perhaps differently. Maybe you've looked at it this way before. A child is not your child. A child is another soul coming into the world on its journey to improve its own record. You're just the vessel through which it comes. That's it. If there's a blessing for you to be a mother and to offer guidance and everything else, then so be it. If not, so be it. Some children grow up in orphanages and in situations that are terrible and horrible, and you wouldn't wish that upon any child. And some are blessed with a 2-parent family that love them and genuinely look after them and give them everything. Either way of those scenarios, doesn't guarantee the child is going to grow up to be a good person, a bad person, any kind of thing, right? They have their own soul pattern. They have their own soul integrity within themselves, right? That will lead them on their own journey with or without you. Obviously, in the part where you're with them, it's with you, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? So there's nothing that can stop them from deviating in their soul path, just as nothing can stop you. The belief that there is something that could delay you or slow you down is what the illusion of free will is. You actually believe you have a choice. You actually believe you have free will. You believe that possibly you could be somewhere else other than be in this Zoom room doing this, listening to me now. You can't. It's impossible. Try to do something other than what you're doing, anywhere, anytime. You can't. You've never been able to, despite your best intentions and your best thinking that, oh, I could have gone to that event or I could have done that and been this. No, you couldn't. Every choice, every decision you ever made has been according to the script. And that's going to sound a little threatening to your ego because it takes away that sense of free will. There is no such thing as free will. The only choice you can make that represents free will is in the decision for Christ-mindedness. But that's a script that isn't of human origin. It's kind of like a layer on top. And as the human one below, and you make a choice for the Christ one to come down into your life, and then eventually they just dissipate, one dissipates the other, and you cross that bridge, and there is only the Christ-minded life that you live. Right? So having a child, if you have a child, this is from my memories of having a child, if you have a child, it's going to push every button you've got. It's going to bring up every fear you have, every concern, every motherly instinct, all these sorts of things, right? It cannot not but help you in your journey of enlightenment, in your journey of salvation, if you see it that way, right? Because we're here to bring up our fears. We're here to face our fears. We're not here to talk shit and then do nothing about it. We're here learning to look at our fears. I want to find whatever fear is in me so I can give it to the Holy Spirit. Here, Father, take this. This is something I made in opposition to love. I don't want it anymore. I'm done with it, right? A child is going to bring up all those fears. What if my child gets hurt at school? What if my child gets a disease? What if my child, all of a sudden, all the concerns you had about life are multiplied 1,000-fold. That's what a child is. A child's not some cute little thing running around. You have to change a diaper. Oh, isn't he cute? Look at that, your little poopy. That's not a child. A child's an absolute freaking nightmare in your head that just worry. Last night, my child, she's 14 now. She went out to her friend's place, and the next thing I get a phone call from my wife, who's 1,000 kilometers away, saying, how come our child is walking unsupervised around the streets at night? And I'm like, what? And I had to deal with that whole other thing, right? She's 14. I wasn't really genuinely concerned, but the fact that she didn't tell me that she was going to be walking around the streets at night with her friends unsupervised by an adult, you know. Anyway, it doesn't stop, right? It doesn't stop, but you get to see where you're at with your sense of self, trust and self-awareness and everything when you have a child. Right? I have faith in God that whatever my child's path will be, will be. I still have to console my wife and whatever, deal with the situation, but I'm unconcerned about my child. But I know at one point I would have been very concerned. There would have been all these sort of like, oh my God, I better go and get her. I better get in the car and go immediately to where they're at and pick her up and give her a kind of a lecture how dangerous things are. It's like, no, not doing that. She's on her own soul journey, and if she needs me, she'll reach out, you know, all of these things. But having children, if you can see that everything in life is a teaching, learning opportunity, right? You're teaching and learning all the time. Having children is an opportunity to teach the art of letting go. There's a thing in you, right? And you call it that urge to reproduce, go forth and procreate, right? There's a thing in you that's that. And then there's another thing in you that through Christ-mindedness is being or coming into a maturity in you, which is the art of letting go. Right? Children are going to be one of the biggest letting go opportunities that you ever have on a daily basis. Not just when they reach 18 and they leave home. They never really leave home. My son's 23 this year. He's a chef like 1,000 kilometers away from me, and he's never really left home. He's still in my heart, and he's still, you know, a person in my life that I have a responsibility to in a certain regard, just like you guys. The depth of that responsibility doesn't matter. It's an integrity to the responsibility. Seen rightly, you have an integrity to the responsibility of all humanity. Right? Now, look at all of humanity as your child, as your children, as your projections, as your creations. How do you feel for them? Not the form, not the bodies. Those are your brothers. Those are all your brothers. Everyone on this page, me. Put your finger here. Do this. Right. Keep it there. Say to me, I am the dreamer of my dream. Right. I'm responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience. And everything that seems to happen to me happens to me exactly as I ask. Right. Now live by that. Everyone you see is somebody who is dearer to you than your own heart. When I look at you guys, it's like, I know the truth of you. I know how much I love you. I can't express it in words, which is probably one of the greatest pains in my heart that I have. There's something in me that wants to reach out and scoop you all up and pull you into my heart space so that you can sort of feel it. And it kills me that I can't do that. But we have this technology from Jesus where we can come individually to learn together what it is that we actually mean to each other, rather than the meaning that we're projecting on each other. We come together to learn that, firstly, by unlearning all the other crap that we've taught ourselves badly, by letting go of all that other stuff. And when we let go of all that other stuff, it leaves an emptiness. In Eastern traditions, they call it the void. When we let go of all that other stuff, it leaves an empty place. When that empty place reaches I don't know how to talk about it. When it reaches a vibrational level that is stable, let's say, you can enter into it. You can go into the void. You can have a light experience there. You can begin to remember home. You can cross the void, cross the gap, which isn't really a gap. There's no gap in God, but it seems on this side, it seems like an incredibly infinite chasm of nothingness. And you'll find this in your meditations as you progress, as you become more masterful at your meditation. It seems like there's this depth of dark, empty nothingness in you. It's not true. Don't listen to that voice that tells you that, and don't ever believe it. It'll be a terrifying place just for a moment, right? But go into it. Go into that place. When you're ready, go into it. And you can never be too ready, I don't think, but do it with the Holy Spirit. When you're ready, ask the Holy Spirit, take me into that place that I'm afraid to go. Jesus talks about it as a tiny moment of terror. where the time of death came to take the place of love. Your awakening is just on the other side of that tiny moment of terror. But it's an all-encompassing terror. Don't get me wrong. It's horrific. It's total death. Right? That tiny moment of terror symbolizes the entirety of the time-space experience all in one moment. So every experience that it's the origin point, right? So every experience of time-space that seems to be played out in time and space from the alpha to the omega, the beginning to the end, right, is contained in its origin point, right? You have one problem and one solution. So Jesus says your problem is that you believe you're separate from God. The solution is that you aren't, right? That's impossible because God is everything. So it can only appear as if I'm separate from God. I can only dream that I'm separate from God. I can only imagine that I'm separate from God in my own fucked up thinking, right? So in our course, we're doing these lessons when we're having the experiences of letting go. We're having the experiences of faith and trust and everything incrementally with every confrontation with fear that we make, right? My fear in this relationship, my fear in that relationship, my fear in the relationship with the universe, my fear in the relationship with the rats in the street, all of these things. We have these confrontation moments. We confront our fears and we say to ourselves, I refuse to live in fear. I'm not going to do this anymore. I need a miracle. And we ask and we pray, I need a miracle instead of this, right? And then if our prayer is true, we'll become witness to that miracle in us and we'll start to see a change and a shift in the external environment because the internal environment has already changed just in the asking, right? But you have to ask. You have to ask. You must ask. Okay. All of those experiences, all of those little confrontations with fear accumulate your awareness of an idea called faith. They accumulate and they add witness to you. Every time you have one, every time you take the blinders off and say, all right, my relationship with my parents, I'm gonna deal with this. I'm tired of having this background story running about how this happened, that happened, whatever. I wanted to see it peacefully. Right now, your parents, your whatever, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, the relationship itself is perfect, right? That relationship has always been perfect, whether you were abused, whether you were cherished, whether you were whatever it is, it's always been perfect according to the script you asked for. I'm responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, right? Always perfect. You manifest your own reality. The gratitude that comes through healing is a gratitude for that person for playing that part for you. Wow, thank you for playing that part for me in my old dream of death. Now I'm choosing a new dream and I'm going to release you from the necessity to continue to play that part as I release myself from authorship of the script, right? I'm accepting Jesus's script instead of my own in place of what I look on now. That's weird. I've got two waterfowl that just, like, there's no water near my house for ages, like apart from in the tanks. So remember I had my my bush turkeys. This is just a little aside. So the bush turkeys came and went, and now I've got two waterfowl that appeared and disappeared in the same place the bush turkeys used to appear. There must be like a bird track that goes through there somewhere. Go figure. Anyway, distraction. When you live in the bush, you have all sorts of things. I was out last night having a pee at like 3 a.m, out on the lawn out the front here. I have no neighbors. I live alone out in the bush. And I'm standing there and it's pitch black, cloudy sky, a couple of stars, whatever. And I hear this thump, 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 thump coming down the hill towards me, which is kangaroos, right? And they're kind of noisy when they jump. They thump, thump, thump. Their two big feet just boom, pound the ground. and this rock wallaby turns up. I'm mid P, right? I'm mid P. This rock wallaby turns up and it's like 10 meters from me, and I'm in the way of where it needs to go. It's going through my lawn and through my thing to off to the bush on the other side, and it stops there. And they're incredibly timid. Rock wallabies are incredibly timid. They won't come near you. But it knows I'm facing the rock wallaby and the rock wallaby's facing me, and I'm finishing my pee. And I'm like, you can go around me if you want. I'm talking to the rock wallaby. And I said, you can go around me if you want. I'm not going to move. I'm just going to be here doing my thing. And the rock wallaby just sat there. And it was so stoic. It was just like, this is my pathway. You're on my path. What are you freaking doing here? And I got this real vibe of like, you need to get out of my way. Anyway, so I finished my pee. I went back in the house and heard thump, 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 and it went across my lawn. But it just sat there. It was like this freaky moment in the pitch black. And the only way I could really see it is because they have this white strip of fur down the thing, and their little eyes have a bit of white fur sometimes around the eyes and the nose and things like that. And I'm like, that looks like a wallaby. If it was a kangaroo, it would have gone straight through and knocked me over. Like, kangaroos are real arrogant. Just, get out. This is my place, you know. Funny asides. It's what happens when you live in the bush. But every relationship you have is perfect. If you have a child, that relationship will be perfect. It will serve your salvation exactly the same as if you don't have a child. There will not be one more or less opportunity for awakening if you have a child, or if you don't. If you don't have a child, those opportunities will show up in different ways. So whatever it is that you're to be about it. Don't give it any thought. Feel it in your heart. Listen to your heart. What do you want to do? Right? There's a place in this where everybody's gone. There's a place in this where because you find a spiritual teaching all of a sudden on your journey, you realize you have other options, other things that you'd never considered before. And so you start to weigh up what you would have normally done without perhaps even really giving it any much thought in a different light. You start to look at it differently. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do that? Right? But it's like, in your heart, what do you want to do? To thyself be true. Right? To thyself be true. In salvation or out of salvation, it doesn't matter. There's not really such a thing as out of salvation. Even those who've never heard the word salvation are still participating in it, simply because we're living in the resurrection. Right? We call it AD, BC and AD. We're actually living in the rippling effect of a shift in consciousness that was so profound that it affected everybody on the planet, and will do until time is done. When you come into contact with the Course, however, it's more of a conscious understanding that becomes developed in you regarding what that shift was 2,000 years ago in human consciousness. Right? They're coming back again.
Sorry, my nuts got cold.
I forget you guys we're coming into our warmer time now, so you guys are going to be. I'll send you some beanies, Gemma. You seem to have enough hair, but so it doesn't matter, Janine. It doesn't matter. Have a child, don't have a child. Have 50 children, don't have 50 children. No. If you look at any of the saints, like the Indian saints, especially Amachi, right? I love Amachi. Amachi is a woman who awoke, had a very profound awakening, and then with her awakening, because in India the nature of spirituality is so ingrained in the psyche of the people, anyone who has an awakening instantly becomes a kind of a saint in India, becomes a holy person and someone to be revered. And they have, because of the caste system, which is still in place, because of the caste system, saints and holy people, sadhus and whatever, they're at the very bottom of society. And that's where they choose to be. That's where they live, as their brother's keeper, as a servant to all mankind, right? The sadhus will tell you that they are the lowest of the low. Because of that humble place where they choose to reside emotionally, spiritually, and everything, they're revered as being an example of the highest integrity to human principle, human caring, understanding, and love possible. And it's a blessing to have somebody like that in your village or in your life, a person who's had such an experience. And the mother, Amachi, this is why they call her the mother. When Amachi had her awakening, a huge amount of people gathered to her, right? She performed a few miracles and things happened that people couldn't deny. And huge crowds of people follow her basically wherever she goes. And whatever she tells them to do, they do, right? They're her devotees, her followers, and they're all over the world. Pardon me. Like millions of people, really. And she has orphanages, right? This is the same in Thailand. In Thailand, when we went to Thailand, there's a guy, he's 104, 106 something years old, the oldest monk in Thailand. And he's set up 89 orphanages, right? Because of his popularity amongst the people, he's been working tirelessly for love, for peace, for everything, for all these years. Because of his popularity amongst the people and the respect that in Thai culture, the first son of every family has to become a monk. It's the king's order, right? The king loves Buddhism and supports Buddhism. And the firstborn man of every family has to become a monk and represent the family through monastic traditions. And this particular guy, same as Amachi, has set up all these orphanages, right? They're orphanages / schools / places to live, and which I guess is what an orphanage is. And every child that attends those orphanages is a child of the mother. Every child that is supported through those orphanages is a child of India, is a child of the people. Those children are not seen as homeless and without family. Same as in Thailand. Those children are loved and cared for and given parentage through all the people that support the orphanages financially, physically. That system or that network of support and love and strength and everything that happens in the poorest countries on earth. India, Thailand. There are people that live on $50 a month. $12 a week is their payment, is their wage, right? A couple of dollars a day. They work all day for like $2. They live on rice, and yet they give to the mother for these orphanages to support these children out of love. Those children and that particular passage in her own transformation that the mother has taken on. And I wish I could remember the name of the monk in Thailand. I bought it. Typical tourist. I went to his house. I'll tell that story another time. When I was in Thailand, I went to his house. Tina, remember me to tell that story. So, but what she's taken on in those orphanages, and I believe there are dozens of them, like dozens of orphanages throughout India where they're all supported by Amachi. That cannot possibly distract from her spiritual path, from her thing. It becomes part of it. It's part of it, and she sees it as part of it. And that's how you'll be in your heart and in your mind if you have a child. It'll become part of your journey. It cannot possibly distract you. It cannot possibly delay you. It can only be a benefit and a blessing. So get it on. There is like that. How do I put this? I can't even tell you this one. This one's crazy. Have you, any of you guys ever read the Urantia book, the Book of the Earth? All right, Tina, I don't even have to ask you. I know you probably read it, like encyclopedia'd it. So in the Urantia book, don't everybody rush out and buy this book. It'll just fuck with your head more, right? But in the Urantia book, it's a series of channelings and visionary accounts and things like that about the nature of life on Earth and beyond, and the bardo and different all sorts of things. It's really cool, but you really, if you're going to tackle it, you really need to master the course before you do it. Otherwise, it's going to be, you'll be trying to fit it in with course stuff and everything else, and it'll just get messy in there like alphabet soup, right? Once you master the course and accept that Jesus is head of the atonement, don't worry about it, he's got it, right? Then you can safely read pretty much any other book and you'll be like, yeah, whatever. And then, oh, that's good. You know, you'll be able to see where it is that those, because no communication ever comes through perfect. None, right? And you'll see, I've seen lots of faults, and I wouldn't really call them faults, but lots of channeling efforts from people over the years that have been sort of a little bit off, a little bit, you know, this way and the other. And I could look at that as just my own mind. I could say, well, this is just me truing up to whatever. But at the end of the day, when I compare this channel or this particular thing I'm reading with what Jesus says about it in the course, I'm always going to choose the course. If I have a conflict or a thing in the two, it's like, no, well, this one's pretty good. But it's like, you know, I read Illusions by Richard Bach many, many years ago, one of my earliest books when I was very young. Illusions by Richard Bach, which at that time I thought was an incredible spiritual publication. It made more sense to me than anything on the world. But I wouldn't go back to it now because I've got the course, right? And there's nothing beyond the course. That's it. Once you go beyond the course, you're in open waters. If you still need another book after A Course in Miracles, then you haven't done the lessons, right? Simple as that. So, but I wouldn't go back to that. You know, it doesn't stack up. It's like, I'll take the course, thanks. So in the Urantia book, the Book of the Earth, there's a bit where, I don't know who the channel is on this particular section, but they're talking about the Morantia worlds, where there are like 7 or 8, which is Earth. There are about 7 or 8 worlds where life is currently incarnated in this universe, where beings can enter in and have a very similar experience of the journey of their soul through a physical incarnation, and talking about exiting that, right? And one of the things they talk about when they exit it is that there are these cities, right, where non-incarnated, non-transcendental souls have to go to wait. And they wait for the next incarnation. It's sort of like your spirit leaves the body, and where does it go next? Well, unless you've reached enlightenment on this earth or in this experience, you don't know where you're going next because you don't have a reference point for what's next. So you have to come back around again to learn. You're still in the school of life. But in between those incarnations, you go to these cities, and the way that they're described in the book is really quite beautiful. It's like, why would you even leave the city to come? But you can't, every city gets boring eventually. There are these cities of light where, in my mind, because I only have a reference for 3 dimensions, right? Well, basically, but it talks about the buildings and the structures of these cities where souls can go to wait, and where beings go to wait for their next incarnation, which to me is just the bardo, but the bardo has several gates that you can enter out of. But one of the things that got me was how long the queue is. How long the queue is for those people waiting for an incarnation. It's like it takes 9 months, you know, for gestation and birth and the whole thing like that. And it's like everybody up there's like, hurry up, you earth people. And everybody's praying for reruns of, you know, what's that book, 50 51st date, not 51st dates, the 50 Shades of Grey, get everybody horny and start having more babies, and it's like it'll knock the queue down a bit, you know. That's how I saw it in my mind. It's like, oh my God, the queue's freaking long. They talk about 1,000 years waiting in the queue, waiting for their number to be called so they can like whoop down into the womb and have another go. You know, it's like, but the whole thing is holy, Janine. The whole thing is holy, right? The whole process of having a child is holy. You're bringing another being in to have an experience of the journey of their soul, to try again. Jesus talks about it in the Course, to try again. Okay. I mean, I'm surprised that all of you women of fertile age aren't all up the duff, like pretty much. If you're all sitting there in 9 months like balloons, I'll be like, yay, I've done my job. So, but anyway, I guess chemistry has to be involved there. There's still that humanity. Does that answer your question? Do you have any doubt?
I guess like it was the whole special relationship and then unholy and holy, and then basically because I feel like it can't be a holy relationship the entire time. And I was just thinking that I'm so like done with this world and ready to
Right.
put the, you know, God above everything. And then I just figured if I still had that special relationship with something that I could possibly put above God, then I was thinking it would, you know, take
Right.
longer. That's
So
really was my.
let me tell you this, you're not done with the world. In the moment you're done with the world, you'll be done with the world. Until then, you're talking about being done with the world, right? You can't really be done with the world on one hand and thinking about whether you should or shouldn't have a baby on the other hand. That's not done with the world. That's like, I don't know what I'm doing in my head. Right? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Right. So on one hand, should I have a baby? On the other hand, I want to get out of this world. I'm done with it.
Well, I figured if I have to be here anyway, then.
Right, exactly. But here's the thing, you don't have to be here anyway. Right? Now, enlightenment it happens two ways, right? Always by the grace of God, actually, right? I should put our sponsor there above. Right? It happens two ways. Immediately or through transformation. Okay? If it happens immediately, it happened immediately to me. I was done with the world. I was at the dark night of my soul, right? That's how it happened to me. I still had to transform my mind after. A process that I'm still embedded in and still going through and seeing the particulars of that processing occurring in me as I true up to that experience that has happened, right? As I true up to it and purify what was not true in me to bring it to an alignment with the Christ in me, which is occurring. And sometimes it seems like it's occurring slowly, but it's occurring. And the other way is through transformation, where you transform your mind through taking responsibility for the dream that you've made. Whether that has children in it or not, it doesn't matter. I would think it would be nice to have children in it. Children are a blessing on any home, right? The need for that queue to be shortened, certainly. But it's your choice, your decision. I mean, if you were to look out there at the world to make that decision, you'd probably look at the world and go, no, I don't want to bring children into this world right now. But it's like, well, when is there really ever a good time?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Cause and effect will always be cause and effect. It doesn't matter what it is. there could be world peace and yet a volcano in your backyard, you know, like what the hell? You can't predict anything here from one thing to another. So it's like, just be about it. Whatever it is you're going to do, be about it. Don't waste time sitting in the thinking. Do I, don't I, do I, don't I? Get off the fence, make a decision. Right? Everything occurs in the decision. Nothing can proceed forward until that decision is made. Okay. In the making of the decision, everything that unfolds from there on was meant to unfold. It's like when you're looking at the same page of a storybook and you just keep reading the same page over and over and over again, and it's the last page in your book and you don't want to get to the ending of the book because, oh no, this is a great book, I don't want it to end. I'll just read the last page a few more times and then I'll read the ending. That's what I used to do. Tina, what's going on?
I'm going to have to go, guys.
All right,
Thank
Charmaine.
Thank you,
See you
thank you,
next.
thank you. Thank you. See you next time.
Dodged a bullet. Peace.
I had a lot of stuff coming up with my friends. A friend in particular. I don't really quite know how to talk about it. I finally said what I wanted to say.
Good.
And I felt really good about that. But there seems to be some confusion about doing the right thing, and I just feel like, and I want to just kind of drop trying to figure it out. But since you asked, I might need some help. Like using like spiritualizing things, you know, like this is just my reflection, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yep. You're getting a reflection.
It's a perfect reflection. But I don't want to, but at the same time, I feel like I am with this whole, like, it's my reflection. I just feel like it's killing me to
Right.
not be able to just be honest. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you do. All right, you don't have to say it out loud. Ready? Close your eyes for a second. Look in the mirror. Look at the reflection and give it a name. One word if you can, or two words at the most. Give it a name.
Arrogance.
Right. What's difficult to own about that? You're an arrogant thing. I think I can usurp the throne of God. That's total arrogance. Always reflect everything back. Reflect everything back to your relationship with your Father. What shows up out in the world is a symbolic representation of the journey that you're experiencing yourself in separation, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it look like arrogance? Forget about the person playing that part for a second. Just look at the reflection. Just own what it's showing you. Oh, I'm seeing my arrogance. damn, that's me. And there's going to be a part in you that wants to go, no, it's them. It's that person's arrogance, right? Or whatever. You can't do it that way. You have to make a choice. Okay. Same as Janine. You got to make a choice, a decision. Father, I choose to own this reflection. I choose to own this arrogance. I don't know how to do that. How the hell do you do that? It's me that's arrogant. And then you ask, Holy Spirit, show me where it is in me that this is, right? You can see it conceptually. You can see it spiritually. You're already spiritualizing it in your head, using the concepts and the ideas to use the mirror. Now find it in you where it actually is.
It's obvious. I obviously see it in myself. There's another, it's victim. It's a victim thing, because now I'm like, okay, I see it in myself. I see it in myself.
Right.
But now it's like I'm a victim. Like I have to put up with all of this arrogance because I'm arrogant, and I have to just be. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now stop. Close your eyes. There's no one out there.
Yeah. Oh.
Ready? I'm the dreamer of my dream. I'm seeing the reflection of arrogance. This is another opportunity for me to heal. See it as an opportunity. Whether you want to play the victim to it or whether you want to, it doesn't really matter. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be there until you heal it. Okay. Now keep your eyes closed. Draw your circle. Cause and effect are not separate. You're seeing the effects of your thinking outside of you. The cause is in you somewhere. Okay? Cause and effect are not separate. Hold on to the effect, how it makes you feel, and take it into your circle. The Holy Spirit's job is to bring that together, the cause and the effect together, and to free you from that false perception. Breathe. Breathe and just let it happen. Right? Here I am, Lord. I need a miracle. Right? Include the miracle. I need help. And then don't define what the help is that you need. God knows before you ask. Now stay there. Stay in that place. All of that will come up. It'll just come up. Stay in the circle. Every time mind attempts to distract you with thoughts, even thoughts about what I'm saying, ignore it. Stay there. Do the work. Bibiana, looking particularly radiant today.
Thank you.
It's nice to see a smile, you know, like, and just have it, have that knowing that it's not for any reason whatsoever. It's just natural. Keep your eyes closed, Tina. Stay there in that place. Do it. Close your eyes. Breathe. Go on, you can do this. Anna's about to join you in a minute.
I was gonna leave.
Where would you go? It'll be done before you know it. You ready? Good. Good. Yes, Gemma. Yes. Breathe. Feel. Reach into it. Feel it. Arrogance, ignorance, all of that stuff. Stupidest decision I ever made. I thought I could do God's job. I thought I could usurp the throne. I thought I was a power unto myself and I could obliterate awareness of my Father's love. Tough gig to find. That's a tough thing to be honest about. Breathe. Stay in that circle. Don't adjust. The path of walking this teaching through the world is that I'm responsible for everything I see. If I see arrogance, I'm arrogant. If I see stupidity, I'm stupid. If I see negativity, it's because I'm negative. If I'm bored, it's because I'm boring. I am the state, not the reflection. I'm the state. I'm one with all things. Owning those reflections, that's the work. Owning the reflection, taking total responsibility for it. I'm going to see it outside of myself everywhere. Stupid people, arrogant people, whatever, until finally I'm done with seeing stupid people and arrogant people, and I want to do this. I'm the arrogant person. I'm the stupid person. I'm the jealous, petty, whatever you can ascribe to it, whatever you see in the mirror. It's me. If it wasn't, you wouldn't see it. It wouldn't affect you. It just doesn't show up. And you clean that mirror, clean that mirror, clean that mirror, so that the internal world, through forgiveness, becomes purified of the reflection it sees out there, until the only reflection that it gets back is peace and love. That's it. Everything is either a lesson or a blessing. A lesson or a blessing. There's no in between. So, wow, thank you, brother, for playing that part for me. Thank you for being my mirror. I've dragged you all the way from eternity into the nightmare of my imagination of being separate from God to play that part for me. How heavy that part must be for you to play, knowing the love that we have for each other, which is true. How unlike your true nature must you have to be morphed into for me to play an untrue part for me. I'm responsible. I'm not guilty for it, but I'm responsible for it. There's no guilt implied in a dream, but I am responsible. If it brings up guilt, great. Let it bring up guilt as well. Guilt, blame, all of that victim stuff, that's all good stuff to use. Here, Father, take this from me too. Take this, take this, take this. I'm a child of God. My brother is a child of God. I only want to see that. I only want to see the truth. And through the use of the symbols, through learning to use the symbols and the imagery of my dreaming, I'll begin to process through the particulars of my own ideas of being separate from my father, separate from my brothers, so that I can undergo specific shifts in my consciousness, specific shifts in my script, so that I can begin to awaken. It's a good reflection, Tina. It's a good reflection. Own it. Totally take it to heart. You eat a lot of humble pie in salvation. There's a lot of humble pie to eat. It's got lemons and cloves and all those bitter kind of horrible things in it. It's like, I've got to eat this pie again. When do I get to the apple? When do I get a freaking apple pie here, Jesus? So there's no such thing as an apple pie in eternity. You are the apple pie of God's eye. That's it. Arrogant one. You're learning to laugh at yourself. God damn, I'm arrogant. God damn it. Yep, I'm everything here. Owning my arrogance here is owning my perfection in the world. Owning my arrogance here is owning my perfection in the world. I'm not perfect if I'm good and nice and peaceful and loving to everybody. I'm perfect if I'm arrogant and obnoxious and loving and kind and all of the options within the framework of duality that are according to my script. I own it all. I accept all reflections, the good and the bad, the sinner and the saint. I'm one with all things. It's only distasteful to accept others because I've conditioned myself to believe that being a perfect and upstanding person means that I only behave in a certain manner and I don't judge and I this and that and the other. It's like, nah, bullshit. I'm a complete failure at humanity. My perfection here is admitting to my complete failure. I'm a fraud. I'm a sham. I'm a liar from the beginning to the end. And in that, I'm free. There you go. Looking better. I love it when you guys have a meltdown. It's like, it's great. It's like it's change. It's change. If you sat there all like this paying attention the whole time, I'd be like, damn, I'm not getting through to them. Thank God for workbook lessons. Anna, what's going on? You knew I was going to pick on you, didn't you? Did I tell you I love you today?
Love you, Dave.
I love you too. That wasn't so hard, was it?
No. Actually, it kind of was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You got that little reservation in there?
I guess it's just always been a hard thing to say.
It's not. You ready? Look at me. I love you. I love you.
I love you.
All the love in eternity. I would lay down on the train tracks for you. I would, whatever it takes for you. My body, my soul, everything.
Yeah.
There's not even any everything that I can think of that, you know, like it's just, it's there, it's natural. That's good to recognize that it's hard to say. It's good to recognize that. Right? There's the work. There's where the work is. Why should it be hard to say? Why wouldn't I want to be able to just say that to everybody?
Yeah. Like it should just be free to be said.
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't I just want to tell people I love them? I tell some of the people that come into my store and they get a tattoo off. I say, see you later, I love you. Like that, and they walk out and they probably walk out going, what the fuck? What did he just say? I don't care. I think it's crazy, I'm sure. I love you.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm at a point where I just never feel content with anything.
Good.
Yeah. It feels like there's conflict in every relationship.
Of
for
course,
me.
that's relationships are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Relationships
Yes.
are conflict.
Yeah.
They were set up to represent. Relationships were set up to represent conflict. Me and God, there's conflict. Or I believe there's conflict. There's no conflict in God's mind, but in my mind, I believe there's conflict.
Yeah.
Why does God let little babies die? Why God this? Why God that? Where are you, God, when I need you? Fuck you, God. Right? There's some disharmony in the relationship that you have with your Father, with your creative source. It shows up in everything. It has to, because everything is that relationship. Everywhere you look, every person you talk to, if you got stuck on a deserted island with one other person, that person would play out every part, would reflect back to you every aspect of your denial. It would be continuously, you know, when you have a relationship with someone that you're physically involved in and you have the honeymoon period and then that wears off and then it just becomes the nuts and bolts of the relationship and you start to peck at each other a bit and it's like all of a sudden you're niggling and then before you know it, 60 years have gone by, you're an old married couple arguing like fucking cats and dogs and then you just go to bed like nothing happened. That's a relationship. Right?
Yeah.
Every relationship is that, right? But there's one problem and one solution. I think I'm separate from God in this relationship. The solution is I'm not. The habituation is to try and deal with the relationship on your own terms. So there's this constant attack and defense, attack and defense. Someone said something, I say something back because I think my perspective is more enlightened or more better or whatever the hell. And boom, boom, boom. And it just perpetuates this animosity and this aggravation, which is symbolic of the animosity you have towards God. This is a journey into fear. Look at it. Pick one relationship. What's the most obvious one that causes you aggro? Right? Look at it. Do what Tina did. Look in the mirror of that relationship. What is it showing you about yourself? Look at that person. How they make you feel. All of that sort of stuff. And now give it a name. I told you I was going to bring you the mirror. Tina's been custodian of the mirror up till now, and now it comes over to you. All right. Look in the mirror, give it a name. What do I see there? Whatever it is, it's going to be false. All right. Own it. It's not him. It's not out there. There's nothing out there. There are no others. This is a reflection of my own thinking. Something distasteful, perhaps. Something I don't want to look at. Something I refuse to believe is within myself. Something I abhor as a part of my character. Right? None of your character is true.
Yeah.
The whole lot has to be purified. The whole lot has to be forgiven. Right? Give myself for these ideas that I have about myself that I don't want to accept for myself, and I project onto others. And because my mind is powerful, what I project out gets picked up by somebody who's capable of playing the part, and they play the part for me. They don't even know where they're playing it. They've forgotten the agreement they made before time began. They're just normal human beings doing normal human being stuff. And I'm holding them accountable to my projection. You're an arrogant son of a bitch. You're this, you're that. You're a piece of shit. I've been called a piece of shit before. It hurt. It really hurt. Willem used to call me an arsehole every day. I was so well defended against owning that reflection. It took like 3 months, maybe more. One day I said to him, he called me an arsehole, and one day I said, you know what, that hurts. And he gave me a big hug. He said, thank you for finally opening up. Thank you for finally feeling it, letting it in. Now, being an arsehole isn't the truth of me. It's a false of me, but it's a false that I have to accept responsibility for if I'm going to proceed further in the journey of my soul. Some reflections we love. We love all the reflections that are nice and people pat us on the back and tell us how wonderful we are. And we hate the ones that seem to conflict with that.
Yeah.
It's like I'd rather cut off a nipple than fucking, than own some of my reflections. It would be less painful, it would seem. Own it. Bibiana, own it. Gemma, own it.
I like that exercise, Dave. I like that. Name it, give it a word.
Give it a
I
name.
like instant turning it inwards. Yeah, just like
Well,
whatever comes.
you already know, don't you? You already know.
Yeah. It's good.
But you
Yeah.
have to identify it. It's in the act of identifying it and telling yourself what it is you're seeing. Now you can't escape from it. Now you know you've seen it. You know it's there. You got to deal with it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
But
good.
help. Father, help. I need help. Right? That's good, Anna. Feel it. You got to feel it, right? The effect. You see the effect out there in people and situations and things. It's like, all right, help me to own this. Help me to own this reflection and really, really take responsibility for it. And the prayer of the heart that asks for the healing of the mind that actually has given that validity, has given that some kind of credence, it'll go deep. It'll go to the next deepest place it needs to go automatically. What's happening with you, Gemma?
Just in that little exercise, what was coming up for me
in
then? Or do you
general.
mean in general?
In general.
So I feel like I've it's funny you mentioned a river or something as you came on, and I visualized, feel like I've been in a bit of a slipstream and the river's going really, really fast. And I think there's been some kind of resistance or going on. But when we was reading the lessons before, what or I don't know what I was listening to the lessons, but kind of what came to me was this being in this river, and it was just like let go and just
Yeah.
and it was like, oh yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, there's been some kind of fear there, blocks of fear, fear of oh yeah, I can feel that fear of being judged.
Right.
But yeah, that the lessons and just the
Stop.
doing that before
Stop.
was good. Yeah, I feel that.
Fear of, right, ready? Sit up straight. Fear of being judged. Look at it. Fear of being judged. See what's there for you. Is there anything there still? Is that still a current fear, a valid fear? Is it still something there?
Yeah.
All right, sit there. Draw your circle. Fear of being judged. I'm not separate from you. All of these I know. Right. All of these fears I know, all of these fears I've seen. The arrogance, the stupidity, the ignorance. All of these things I've been through. All of these things I've healed. All of these things are done in me and so in you. Join me in the light. Don't dwell in your fear. Right? Walk straight through it. That mirror, right? That mirror that you're identifying, walk straight through it. Anna, same thing. Tina, same thing. A reflection cannot tell you who you are. Only God can tell you what you are and where you are forever.
Is it that there's a fear of being judged by God?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the fourth block, the fear of love. I think that God will judge me. And God, of course, God will judge you. Everyone has to face that final judgment. God's judgment upon you is, here is my child, perfect and whole and sinless as I created them. That's it.
Fourth block.
God only sees the innocence. God has no judgment like we have judgment. God only sees itself in everything. In you is perfection because God created you perfect. That's what God sees. That's what I see. I still have to deal with the particulars. You know, it's like Jesus had these disciples, all of that, and you'll have yours. You know, when you go to your monastery and you have people come to your monastery and you listen, some, you know, the perfection in them, but you still have to listen to their gobble. You still have to listen to their stories and go through that whole process. It's like holding the hand of a little child that's afraid to jump into a swimming pool to learn to swim for the first time. That's all I'm doing. I'm standing here holding your hand going, it's okay, Gemma, you can just jump. I already know that. I know you can swim perfectly well.
There's something coming through that. It's going to pop
Right, good.
soon.
Breathe. I know it's going to pop soon. I've been telling you that. Just breathe and let it happen. You're on the cusp of a really, really profound shift. Revelatory, I wouldn't mind saying.
Wow.
You've been coming up against it for quite a while. Draw a circle. In your mind, draw your circle, stand in the circle. Fear of being judged. Go deeper. Fear of being judged. Go deeper. Push. Reach out with your feelings. How does it feel?
Shame's coming up.
Good. Shame.
Like I'm getting like being in the stocks and have like public shame and humiliation and like fruit.
Yeah.
That's don't know where that's come from, but
Probably an old lifetime. Just be still. Try not to buy into the thinking. Just stay with the feelings. Push. Push. Reach out with your feelings. Yes. Let that shame come up, not so that you can validate it, so you can release it. Here, Father, take this from me. Take this shame. It's deep. I used to carry deep hidden shame. Every time I would see an Aboriginal person, I would feel it. The shame of my forebears, of my ancestors, what they did to the people of this land. I would imagine that in other countries, America would be much similar. Shame. It doesn't relate out there in the world to your earthly journey. It relates to the relationship you have with God. I feel shame for what I think I've done. You've never done anything. Not guilty of anything. But because you've given it all a meaning, you have to be relieved of that meaning. You have to accept forgiveness for yourself, even though there's nothing to forgive. It's a paradox. It's a ridiculous paradox. There's nothing to forgive, and yet through the action of accepting forgiveness for myself, I can let go of these false meanings that I've given my experience of myself here in the world as being this human being thing. I'm not the flesh. I am the spirit. I am the spirit. Breathe, Gemma. Anna, breathe. It's a good place to go into that dark, fearful, arrogant, shameful. This is a journey into fear. That's why we're here. We're here to do the work. It's not always nice. But what's worse is dilly-dallying around on the top, not getting the work done, dragging it around with us for another 100 years. Let's be about our Father's business, which is love, and let go of all of this within us, which is not love, which we have told ourselves is our lot in life. You are not shameful. You are not arrogant. Yet in this world, those are lessons in release. Those are opportunities for self-healing and self-love. Oh, I am arrogant. Hooray. I am shameful. Hooray. Yep, I'm all of those things. Yep. Eventually, you'll be able to accept all of those things without them having any kind of emotional impact. Be like, yeah, of course I am. I'm one with everything on earth. Why wouldn't I be arrogant? Why wouldn't I be stupid? Why wouldn't I be all of these things that I see in others? I've been projecting it out onto others. Whoops. I better choose to see things differently. When I want to see only the Christ, that's all I will see. Till then, one day at a time, one lesson at a time. Use the mirror. Apply forgiveness. Be still. Breathe. Connect with it. Let it come up and offer it to God. Heal my mind of my false beliefs. Good. Go deeper, Gemma. Anna, look at that relationship again. Look at that one you used before in the mirror, Anna. Look at it again. Push. Feel into it. Don't just look on the surface. Feel into it. Good. There is never a moment where God's voice ceases to call upon my forgiveness to save me. Never a moment. This moment, this moment, this moment. Good. This is the true work, the confrontation of fear in all its forms, in all its shapes and devious nature. You only need to look upon it and it will be dispelled. Oh yeah, this is in me. Push, Gemma, push. Feel the fear of judgment. That goes right to the core, right to the bottom, right to the dark night of the soul. Push. I only judge myself. God does not judge, for he is never condemned. The blameless cannot blame, and those who have accepted their innocence see nothing to forgive. Yet it is through forgiveness that I will recognize my innocence. It seems to be a contradiction. It seems to be a paradox. But the miracle makes all things in God possible. Push, Gemma. Feel. Let yourself go where that's waiting to go. Let yourself go to the bottom. It doesn't have to be tears and wailing. It usually is, but it doesn't have to be. Feel, Anna. I don't actually know anybody who's who's made a confrontation with fear joyously. You'd have to give salvation total value to be able to do that, I think. But that's the learning. Good, Tina, good. Yes. Yes. Offer it up from there. Offer it up from there. Father, here I am. Take this from me. You're at the right place. Ready? Woo-hoo! Let it go. Let it go now. Let it go. Here I am, Lord. Let it go. That's it. Go on. Let it go. Let it go. Tell yourself, Tina, let it go. Let it go. Woo-hoo! Yes, go on. Push, let it go. Yes. Father, here I am. Oh. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Yes. Push, Gemma, push. Anna, push. Viviana, be still. An association of light. You can feel the frequency. You can feel it. Reach out. Connect. Yes, whatever it takes. Here I am, Lord. Ooh. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Yes, good. Yes, good. Breathe. Anna, get down in there. Come on. Push. Get away from the surface. Swim to the bottom of the ocean. You're going to run out of breath. You're going to drown. You're not going to survive. Go to the bottom. Regardless. Let it be a miracle how you recover. Let it be a miracle how you get to the top, how you draw that next breath. Push, swim, down, down, deeper, deeper, deeper. Feel. Feel it. That's good, Tina. Drink some water. Push. Anna, push. Surely you're done with this by now. Yes, there you go. There you go. Push, keep pushing. Feel, reach out with your feelings, reach out. Own it. Totally take responsibility for it. Let those emotions come up. Stop trying to put a damp on them. Let them come up. You ready, Anna? We would not hide anything from our Father. Here I am, Lord. I'm here for healing. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I'm here for healing. Yes. Yes. Good. Push. Push, Anna. Swim right to the bottom. Feel it. Let it consume you. Let it engulf you. Let those emotions be too much. I can't deal with this. Get to that place. Feel. Right there. You ready? Yep, right there. There you are. Go on. Let it go. Here, Father, take this. Father, take this from me. That's it. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there with the Holy Spirit. Stay there and let it be done. Don't adjust. Feel. Here I am, Lord. Backing off a bit. Go on. Breathe. Yes. Feel it. Now you're feeling it. There it is. Go on. Let that happen. Just let it happen. There's a 10,000-year-old woman in there waiting to scream and cry and just let it all out. Let it out. Let it out, child of God. Your journey is over. Your journey is finished. You're at the end now. Just a little bit of debriefing, a little bit of healing, and we're done. Breathe. Good. There's always this moment of trepidation. There's always a little moment of knowing how deep that feeling can go. It leads you all the way home. It leads your false self to your true self. And when you get there, one cancels out the other. That's good, Tina. Your heart is opening, 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 opening. It's good, Anna. Push. Gemma, feel. Feel. Look in that mirror. Look in the mirror. What do you see? Is that reflection so distasteful? Or have you accepted it?
Yeah, I need to look at all my relationships and really use that exercise to really do some clearing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Whole thing, keep your finger on your nose. What I see is me. Finger there. I couldn't possibly get a reflection if it wasn't my own reflection. Whose else reflection would it be? Who the hell else is in this room? The mirror never lies. The mirror never lies. And in that is my salvation. It's like, holy cow. I've given this reflection all the meaning it has for me. I'm learning to be in the world, but not of it. In the world, but not of it. I am the observer, the passerby. But I can't be the observer whilst I'm still attached to my reflections, good or bad. Yes. Yes. Anna, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Anna, I love you. You are loved and you are loving. You are loved by me unconditionally. I don't care what kind of a doofus you are. This is Doofus Club. You're in the club. Welcome. Welcome, fellow doofus. Remember that class we had with the pointy hat and pass the hat? Right.
I'm gonna have to go, Dave, and everybody, but thank you. I love
Yeah,
you.
I'm going to go and have some breakfast. I love you guys.
Love you.
Viviana,
Bye.
Yes,
go
thank
out
you.
and do something challenging. That's your homework. Go out and do something
File
challenging.
for divorce.
Well, that may be.
File for divorce. That's the one.
All right. Well, there you go. You already know. Bye.
Yeah.
Tina, that's
you.
good. Good job.